Having us here today, Dr. Dunn and executives of Pfizer. I'd like to divert your attention to a time in human history. Late 1700s, where hundreds of thousands of people were dying because of smallpox. And then the father of immunology, Edward Jenner, came up with a vaccine, the first vaccine that saved millions and millions of people for generations to come. And if we classify the pharmaceutical industry under one magnifying glass, we can see that the pharmaceutical industry is going through that downturn, where the reputation of the pharmaceutical industry is declining. And this is where Pfizer can usher in a new era through green chemistry, where consumers can come together and appreciate what the pharmaceutical industry is doing for them. Myself, Mo, Holly, Charisse, and Stephen will cover our presentation today, and we'll speak about the different types. We'll speak about all the different types of solutions that can really usher in the green chemistry era. In our agenda today, we will cover the base challenge. We will look into different types of research. We will also talk about the implementation and the different ideas that we came up with as BRITE Consulting. We will talk about the timeline through a 5-year plan. And finally, we will speak about the evaluation, where we will look at everything we have done today. To start things off, I will pass it off to my colleague Charisse, who will be speaking about the base challenge.
So as Mo mentioned, there has been a bit of a reputation issue with the industry as consumers are looking towards more generic drugs opposed to the actual brand names that Pfizer presents. Ultimately, you guys have recognized this problem, this challenge, and have done something about that. Here, introducing the Green Chemistry Program. So our mandate here for you today is to develop initiatives to promote and advocate for green chemistry for your company Pfizer, as well as for the industry, and bring brand awareness to your company's program. So how we're going to measure the success of this mandate is through 3 key success factors. So first is to promote green chemistry within the industry and really have an awareness of what the industry is shifting towards in terms of consumer awareness. Secondly is to reduce industry costs and environmental impact. So there's a huge cost savings by switching to green chemistry, and as Pfizer's growth continues to slow, as you guys are a large company, that's really important to be able to streamline your costs. And thirdly is to improve company reputation. So like I mentioned, consumers are moving towards the cheaper generic brands. We really want to improve brand awareness, brand loyalty, and ultimately the reputation. So now we'll move on to some research that we've conducted to really help fulfill our mandate.
In the industry analysis section, we will be talking about the different subsections of the industry, of the pharmaceutical industry, and what sort of trends we're seeing with the industry. To start things off, $1 trillion in sales a year for the pharmaceutical industry. That's huge, that's massive. There's a lot of profit in this industry, and you're definitely in the right place right now. When it comes to global drug spending, it's on the rise. There's almost 3 to 6% rise in global spending for pharmaceutical and drugs overall. Moving on, North America is the largest market. 36% of the global market for pharmaceutical industry is dominated by North America. The new drug costs are quite high. It's almost 1 to 5 billion for one drug. Now, obviously, if we implemented this green chemistry, these costs would come down. And just to cover the different subsections of the industry itself, innovative pharmaceutical companies are companies that come up with chemically derived drugs on the basis of chemistry, and they're new, they're revolutionary, they help solve current diseases, and they're actually the biggest part of the market. Moving on, biopharmaceutical is where the medical drugs are derived from biological substances. It's composed of naturally occurring substances within our nature around us. In the biologics subsection is derived from living organisms. So vaccines is a great example of this, where vaccines are derived from actual bacteria. And finally, the generic subsection of the industry is where the patents expire for the innovative subsection. And when the patents expire, these generic drug companies come out and try to replicate these drugs, and they produce it at lower prices.
So now taking into factor the industry in which you operate in, let's take a look at this perceptual map. So it considers how your customers really see you as a company. On the 2 axes here, we have value, so that's the value for your product, the cost of your product at the end of the day, as well as whether your environmentally friendly. So right now you're seen as being somewhat of a valuable product that you're selling, as well as somewhat environmentally friendly. So really the basis of this plan that we have before you today is going to be about knowledge, letting people know that with this green chemistry plan that you'll be able to have value in your product, as well as let your customers know that you're going to be environmentally friendly in the way that you operate your business.
So moving on, we have a bit of a pestle to really give you an understanding of the environment that these new initiatives will come into play with. So first we have the political landscape. So California and Sweden have both introduced legislation. They've done it in two separate ways. So California has really had a regulatory approach to introducing the legislation, whereas Sweden is more of an incentive-based approach, both which is something that Pfizer is looking into in terms of accommodating these legislations. Secondly, we have the economic impact. So as we mentioned, by introducing green chemistry, it does really affect the bottom line of the company, not only in cost, waste management, and also sales numbers. In terms of a social level, it's not just consumers that want to really put their trust in a drug company that has a great reputation, but also it includes customers like the governments in terms of getting government grants, and also large investors, more so the institutional side. Fourthly is technology, so different innovations in terms of technologies being introduced to really streamline those costs in terms of waste management, and it's something that Pfizer has invested billions into. Next is the environmental impact, so really it's to improve manufacturing waste, the carbon footprint, as well as products that really have at the end of their life cycle is a little bit more eco-friendly than previous drugs. And finally, the legal aspect of it. So looking at whether or not we can advertise this green chemistry initiative that we're promoting, because there are strict regulations in terms of what you can advertise in terms of drug names or different ways you advertise. Also, there's regulation with the FDA and the National Environmental Policy Act that really regulates how you label your drugs, and that will come into play when we do really want to brand this initiative.
So in terms of the actual benefits of implementing green chemistry, there are plenty for the business that's actually implementing it. The first one I'm going to talk about is the opportunity to reduce costs for the company. And how this works is green chemistry is really about optimizing the process and the manufacturing procedures in order to make it more efficient. And by doing so, it's going to ultimately reduce the cost for the companies that are running with this process. As a result, it's also going to reduce the time, because it's a much more efficient process. The time that it takes to pay back the initial investment, which can be up to billions of dollars in order to develop new vaccines, is going to be reduced because of this efficiency. Secondly, the capacity savings. The real process and real advantage of implementing this is really the amount of waste that we're reducing. And as a result, we're going to need fewer amount of materials as well as different substances within our labs in order to produce these vaccines. And it's going to result in fewer reduction of waste management. And it's also going to be able to take advantage of higher yields of chemicals in order to produce the substances that we are calling vaccines. Nextly, marketing position. Green chemistry is truly something that is advantageous and can play to the competitive advantage of any organization that is implementing it. In fact, increasing it will increase the reputation points by 1, which could result in 28,000 new consumers looking to buy from this company. Secondly, it can also help meet the customer demands. As we spoke before, it's making it much more efficient, which reduces the cost in order to produce the substance, as well as the time that it takes, which is then going to be passed on to the consumer. Next, it's improved reputation. As we said, this is a huge competitive advantage for companies that implement green chemistry. And as a result, it's going to help reduce the environmental impact, which consumers are aware of and they're recognizing more and more in today's generation, which is going to boost the reputation. And finally, it's going to produce better products that are more healthy for the consumers that are digesting it. And lastly, it's going to help retain and attract better employees for the organization. It's noted that employees generally improve or like working for companies that are conscious about the environmental impact and are providing sustainable efforts in order to do something about it. In fact, 45% of millennials stated that they would take a pay cut of up to 15% simply to work for a company that is environmentally friendly. But it goes much beyond just the consumer, or the business benefits. It also can be passed on to the consumers. The three that we've listed here are lower prices, healthier products, and also environmental sustainable actions. As we said before, the real advantage of this, it's a whole redone of the process. And as a result, it's going to make it much more efficient and reduce the amount of time and cost to produce new substances. So that reduction in cost can then be passed on to the consumers. And it's noted that the green process results in lower prices 99% of the time. So that's something that we can pass on to our consumers for you to take advantage of. Next, healthier products. By doing so, we're going to reduce the amount of high level metals as well as toxic chemicals in our substances, which is then going to make healthier products for the consumers who are taking them. It's going to provide cleaner water and cleaner air pollution, which can then be passed on to the environment, that is indirectly affecting the consumers as well.
So now touching on the actual implementation of our plan that we bring for you today, and we're going to be doing that through the marketing mix. So first touching on the product that you're offering, not just the physical, but the underlying services that you're offering that come along with these products, touching on the price points, the places in which you're going to sell and promote these products, and then the actual promotion, so putting it out there onto the market. So first touching on with the product. So it's really these pharmaceutical products, these drugs that you're offering, but then you have to consider this green chemistry. It's really unique, and you want to make this active not only within your company, but it's something that you want to implement industry-wide. When it comes to the price and the actual implementation of the green chemistry, in the end, in the beginning, there is going to be somewhat of a large initial investment, but that will result in much lower manufacturing costs in the long run. And then, as my colleagues previously mentioned, there will be a lower cost for your consumers in the end. When it comes to the place in which we really want to implement this, is doing it through these roundtables that you're already a part of through different organizations in the pharmaceutical industry, as well as medical facilities of which you supply products for, as well as taking advantage of the digital world that we are living in here today, and as well as taking advantage of these conferences in which you already attend and their full offerings. So when it comes to the actual promotion of this green chemistry line that we have here, it's really going to be about transparency and about knowledge. So it was said that your consumers, your customers, just don't really know a lot about the green chemistry, that you may already be doing it, but they don't know that. So really, we want you to be transparent in the way that you act with these products. And first, starting off with the presentations. So when you go to these medical facilities and you're trying to sell the products to these hospitals, doctors' offices, etc. We want you to be transparent in the way that you operate your business, and hopefully they'll be drawn to that, because it was said that when two companies are side by side, all factors remaining the same, and one is more responsible when it comes to the environment, they would choose that. Also implementing print ads, so pamphlets that you may leave at the doctor's offices or other consumers that you have. Really taking advantage of this digital world, as I previously mentioned. So implementing a lot of this sustainability on your website, again, being transparent about the way that you operate. So maybe having some videos from how you actually create your products, getting them from a raw material to the end consumer, as well as posting some of these videos on YouTube as ads, or when a video first pops up, or being on the side, as well as social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, having them pop up and using some data analytics and going from there. Also, we really want to start off an entrepreneurs Go Green Fund. So that's something that would be brought up at a conference that would really raise awareness and give money to young entrepreneurs that would want to be going green in the way that they operate their business.
So Dr. Dunn, you're heavily involved in the pharmaceutical industry, and we want for you to take advantage of this position and leverage the power that you have, being involved in different conferences as well as board of directors. And what we recommend do is you really lobby for changes in the industry in terms of the regulations for the environment, the products itself, as well as the waste standards within the organization and the industry. And what this is going to allow you to do is really going to build a competitive advantage for Pfizer. You are already implementing green chemistry, which has set you ahead in the industry, and this change is going to allow you to excel within the industry and grow your revenue base. So the 3 things that we're recommending that you lobby are for stricter environmental regulations, pharmaceutical composition regulations, and finally standards for product waste. As we said in the benefits that green chemistry can bring for the organization, it's really about improving the environment, improving the processes to reduce the waste as well as the costs associated, and really improving the substance and the quality of the products that you're delivering. So by taking advantage of that, it's not just benefiting Pfizer as a company, this industry as a whole, but ultimately everybody and all the stakeholders involved. That's your question?
Yes. Why should Pfizer be the one to spend their money on doing the lobbying instead of other companies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we recognize that you are really heavily involved in the industry, and you want to bring out the best of what the newest technologies and the new processes in order to bring that on to the consumers and better everyone as a whole. And as I was mentioning just right there, it's not just benefiting you as a company, the industry, but ultimately all the consumers. And it's something that is going to be crucial as we try to rebuild the reputation that was lost in the industry as a whole.
So now, taking a look at this perceptual map once again. So right now, mediocre value as well as being environmentally friendly. But with our implementation plan for you today, we plan for you to go off the charts, to be seen as a company that offers great value for your products, as well as be environmentally friendly, not only as a company, but extend that to the entire industry in which you operate. So now kicking it off with the timeline, our implementation plan that's going to cover 5 years. So our first phase here is going to be the crawling phase, just beginning in life. So going from the start up until 8 months. So that's really just going to be continuing these roundtables that you already participate in, spreading the word about this green chemistry. Also, that's going to be starting your YouTube ads, getting ready your website for this, as well as starting these print and digital media ads. And from the following, we have the walking stage. So you've surpassed being able to crawl, you're getting moving with walking. So that's going to go from month 9 to the 3rd year. That's really going live with this digital marketing campaign that you've researched here, as well as introducing this new selling technique to these medical facilities as well as other consumers, as well as really evaluating these marketing techniques that you're using. So is Facebook really beneficial to you, or is there a lot of traffic on your website, and adjusting from there, as well as starting to lobby for these government standards to change, as my colleague previously mentioned. So in this 3rd phase, it's going to go from years 3 to 5. It's really just going to be about starting up this Entrepreneurs Go Green Fund, as well as working on converting the industry. We've assumed that by then you already have yourself set, so converting that of the industry would be next. And really starting to evaluate these metrics to track green chemistry going across the industry.
So moving on to, now that we've given you the recommendation and the implementation of that recommendation, we're going to move on to some financials. So as executives of Pfizer, you don't really care about the nitty-gritty numbers, but you do care about your bottom line. So within the 5-year implementation phase that we have suggested for you today, you're going to be incurring a growth rate of 3%. Now that might seem low, however, you're a huge company, and that that percentage translates into billions of dollars, as well as currently in the year 2013, you did incur a growth rate of -7%. So we can go over this in the appendix at a later time.
When it comes to risk and mitigations, obviously any strategy comes with risks, but we think we covered the biggest one. We believe we covered the biggest ones, and the solutions we came up with, I think, will satisfy you heavily. So to start things off, the existing infrastructure is made for producing a lot of drugs. It's not made for creating green chemistry and sustainable production of drugs. So what we will do is allocate a heavier budget towards creating those green chemistry infrastructures and lobbying with our council to get government subsidies to provide for a quicker process and a more green process overall. In our second part, we will cover regulatory approvals. It takes time for us to get approvals from the government, and it does take up to a year. So, but you have been working so hard to come up with the greatest green chemistry processes that we think the government should give you a leeway in terms of how long it takes. So we believe if we lobby with the council to reduce the wait time, you will be able to reduce the amount of time you get approvals for drugs. Finally, there's an issue of diversity in innovative pharmas where a lot of people are not communicating with each other. So we believe that if you can improve communications through creating debate groups between different types of pharmaceutical executives in order to discuss the current trends, what's going to solve this green pharmaceutical or green chemistry process, and so on and so forth. In our final part, our conclusion, we believe that through our base we promote green chemistry, and we came up with a great idea as to the great key success factors to address the current issues in the industry. In our research part, we discussed the industry analysis, we covered the pestle, we also spoke about the different benefits for consumers and businesses, and we looked at the perceptual map, where you are right now and where you will be down the line. In our implementation section, we spoke about the marketing plan, and we also spoke about the different types of lobbying that we have to do in the industry. In our timeline, we covered a 5-year plan through call, walk, and sprint. And finally, we believe that throughout this presentation, we covered great ideas that can help accelerate your firm, Pfizer, to a whole new level. We believe that this vaccination trauma that's happening in the past, this is what the industry is going through right now. But if we introduce this vaccination for success, the industry can evolve tenfold, and Pfizer can be at the helm of it. Thank you for having us here today.